Ah yes, the PS2 versus the Dreamcast. Which one is more powerful? Which one has better games? Which one is priced right? Which one has better first-party exclusives? And which one was your guys' favorite? Today we look at the history and understand why the Dreamcast and the PS2 were so revolutionary. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I hope you guys learned something from today's video. Which one was your favorite? Let me know down in the comment section. Anyways, let's get into today's video. The 90s was a crazy time for video games. There were new and innovative systems coming out all the time, and in 1998 at the Sega New Challenge Conference, Sega was about to show the world gaming like they never thought of before. The Sega Dreamcast was $199. That's even cheaper than their last gen predecessors. It featured a 128-bit architecture, and the systems before it only featured 64-bit, meaning you could have more polygons on the screen than ever before, making it more detail-oriented than any other video game system ever to exist at that time. But as you're watching this clip, you can think that it doesn't look too fancy. But you gotta think about, this is 1998. At the time, this was almost a photorealistic console. Let's take this time to honor our fish friend. He was introduced on the Dreamcast, and he'll be talked about later in the series, but, you know, just take a moment to bask in the greatness of our fish friend.
単体で持ち歩くことで単独でもゲームを楽しむことができるぞ。さらに2台つないでデータの交換も可能。いろんな遊び方ができそうだ。
How can I mention the Dreamcast without mentioning the Dreamcast VMU? Or its technical term, the Sega Virtual Memory Unit. This is Sega's proprietary memory card. It usually had an image on the screen of either a map or of a character of the character's house, but it really wasn't put into play. Well, it kind of was. They put it into play by, drumroll please, making mini games that you could take your VMU out of the controller and take it on the go, because it had a watch battery to power it, and it was on a little LCD screen, almost like a calculator, and they were little mini games. With it only needing a watch battery, it was very easy to use, but it's just the simple fact that people really didn't use it. I mean, it was more like a novelty item, prompting them to make a new and very much improved 4X memory card. It held more space, and it got rid of that screen that really nobody cared for, but some games actually implemented it kind of well, but most did not, and they got rid of it, but in turn, they added more space to it, and people loved it because the Dreamcast memory card, when it came out, only had 128 gigabytes. Yeah, are you kidding me? As we're on the topic of memory, what are you going to fill it up with? With only the best Sonic game ever created, Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 1 was pretty good, but nothing beats the Dreamcast like having Sonic Adventure 2. With some of the greatest music and improved graphics, we have never seen Sonic like this before. It was really crazy because it captured Sonic's crazy amount of insane speed. I mean, it wasn't the first 3D Sonic game, but it sure was the 3D Sonic game people think of when they think of 3D Sonic games. Because we don't talk about the other 3D Sonic game. Yeah. The Dreamcast also had some great fighting games like Street Fighter Alpha 3.
Look at me. I'm a fish.
Sorry the fish interrupted us, guys. But while we're on the topic of the fish, this crazy game, it was called Seaman. It was a crazy game. Apparently it was a simulator which you had to log in every day and get off at a certain time, get on at a certain time. It was crazy. It was beyond anything we've ever seen before. But it was just weird as heck. It was one of the only games that used the Dreamcast microphone. Yeah, you probably didn't even know the Dreamcast had a microphone, but apparently it did. And this game used it. Guys, if you could hear what I'm hearing right now, when you touch the fish, they're screaming like children. Well, they're not screaming, they're laughing like children. And it's kind of terrifying. It's not like a happy laugh. It's weird because you'd have like conversations with him. Like in this part of the game, you're like talking about the internet. It's weird. But it's a game that we never seen before. And honestly, it fits in really nice with the Dreamcast's kind of quirkiness. If you do say that. It's a very quirky system. And lastly, at the time, Sega's latest project, Jet Set Radio. You're rollerblading around the city, graffitiing buildings, you're a total gangster, rebel running from the cops. Sega mastered the aesthetic beautifully, and I come back to this game all the time. The music stopped. I wonder what we're going to talk about next. You know it. It's 2000. The PS2 just came out. And for these people waiting in line back in 2000, they are waiting in line at a mall, it seems, at a GameStop, to get their hands on the all-new PlayStation 2. When people were buying the PS2, they were buying it at a price tag of $300. And back in the 2000s, I would honestly recommend this for you, even if you weren't a gamer. Not only could the PS2 play PS2 games, it could play PS1 games, and it could even play DVDs. That is totally unheard of at the time. It's usually you have a DVD player, you have a PS1, or you have, you just have them all in one now. It was incredible. So just like the Dreamcast, the PS2 was also 128 bits, but where it kind of lacked was in its graphics department. The Dreamcast was overall sharper than the PS2, but the PS2 could render more polygons than the Dreamcast. And I'm just saying this if you're being technical, if you have the Dreamcast or the PS2, whichever one you prefer, you're gonna like it more because you just like the system. But when it comes to what you want in your visuals, you have to really, take back and think. Do you want PS2 with higher polygons and less, upfront video quality? Or would you rather have the lower polygons but the better video quality on the Dreamcast? It's really a win-lose here. Really personal preference. The PlayStation 2 was rocking an 8 megabyte memory card. Yep, we're still using memory cards. But now you can buy memory cards that span all the way up to 128 megabytes, but those are third party, and most people say that is overkill for the PS2. So I would just stick with the 8 if I were you. Oh yeah, and before I forget, in 2004, they made a smaller PS2 Slim, and it was only $107. That is way cheaper than the Fat. The reason it sold so well is because at the time it was the cheapest DVD player. And everybody needs a DVD player, come on. Back in the days of no Netflix. Games, where do I start? I guess I'll start with Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. This is where the series started, and some people may argue this is where open world video games started. This game is a banger. If you have a PS2, you need to get this. Then, arguably one of the best horror video games of all time, Resident Evil 4. You're a guy on a mission trying to get the US president's daughter back. Don't know why she's there, but you'll find out if you play this game. Then, I hate to get sad, but I'm going to have to talk about Kingdom Hearts. One of my favorite video game franchises of all time. Got its start on the PS2. And it is a great game with a great story. Final Fantasy, which we all know, mixed with Disney characters. Weird mashup, I know. Give it a shot, and you won't regret it. At all, I promise you. You can even call me back, and if you don't like the game, then I will tell you you're wrong, but Yeah, you probably won't hate this game. If you like Final Fantasy. Well, and Disney at all. Well, and video games in general. Just play this game. And then you got God of War. And then you have Katamari Damacy. You have Gran Turismo 4. You have Persona 4. Shadow of the Colossus. There's just so many. I could go on and on. Like a lot of games, and they're all good. Like, there's a lot of good games for the system. There were 4,000 games for the whole system. That's a lot. Well, that's all I have here for today. I hope you learned something. And if not, if you didn't learn anything, then good for you. But I hope you did. Yep. Whether you like the Dreamcast for its innovative technology, or you like the PS2 for its banger game library, doesn't matter what system you're playing on, you're still having a great time. Let me know what system's your favorite down in the comments. And also comment down below what video game you'd like me to do a versus series of next. Joshman Jones out.
That fish is gonna give me nightmares.